I'm not connected. I just opened it before I get here.
I had it open, but somehow it closed.
It's 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Ken, roll call, please.
Blackburn.
Present.
Hageman.
Here.
Hedge. Howard.
Here.
Craybill.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Mashigian.
Here.
All right, you have a quorum of 6.
Thank you. I just want to remind everybody to please silence your cell phones and that this meeting is being videotaped. So if you come to the podium, your comments will be part of the recording. Next, I ask for approval or a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Chairman, if I may, I'd like to move the executive session and the trustee comments to flip-flop those so that we would have trustee comments so the audience and they can be recorded, and therefore then we can go into the executive session. I could make that a motion.
I'd second.
Any discussion?
Well, I think the idea is to go into executive session and then come back out, is it not?
Yeah, we would to adjourn. We vote, yeah.
There will be no action after the executive session, so you could flip-flop them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
We have a second?
I second.
No further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is the approval of, motion to approve the regular council meeting minutes from November 27th, 2023. Is there a motion?
Just a question, did we approve the agenda or just the switch of the agenda?
I think we just
With the amended
moved
agenda.
to move it. I don't know if we approved it or not.
All right, well,
Approve the
if,
amended agenda.
I would
Approved the
move,
amended.
I would move we approve the amended agenda.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from November 27th, 2023?
I'd move to approve the minutes.
Is there a
I
second?
will second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is the President's communication. I wanted to read something that I've prepared. Recently, I've been contacted by a few residents requesting a special meeting be scheduled with Village Council or select Village Council members so that select residents can raise issues that they want to discuss. Such a meeting is not an option as it goes against the Open Meetings Act. The Open Meetings Act states that no more than 3 council members can be together at any one time outside of a council meeting. So if all council members were in attendance, it would be a violation of the Open Meetings Act. It's also not proper for select members of council to meet with select residents and speak for the entire council, whether it be in a public space or a private home. Therefore, the most effective way for residents to address council members is to speak during public comment so that their concerns can be heard by the entire council, as well as the public. I understand that there is concern with the lack of ability to have a back and forth conversation, which is why I put in place the President Communication agenda item. However, it was conveyed to me that the time lapse of a month between meetings was too much time gone by. So in response to that concern, I started reaching out to residents immediately after meetings, or I asked the village manager to reach out to schedule a follow-up meeting with myself and/or the village manager to promptly address concerns. Some of the residents avail themselves of the opportunity and some don't. I've always made myself and/or the village manager available to meet and look into any concerns. If that opportunity is not taken, I'm at a loss for how to help. Working within the constraints of the Open Meetings Act is sometimes slightly frustrating, but it is necessary and a requirement of the government. As a result, it is not appropriate to call a special meeting of the Village Council to hear select residents' concerns, as those concerns can and should be addressed at a regularly scheduled Village Council meeting, which, by the way, traditionally is how municipalities address public concern. If any resident would like to meet with me personally, I am and always have been and will continue to be available anytime. I would also like everyone to know that it is my intention to have the woodland tree ordinance on the February agenda for discussion. Thank you.
Can you take a question?
Sure.
All right, I think, would it be possible if we were going to have such a meeting and the announcement was placed in the paper, so it was following the rules of the Open Meeting Act? Would that sort of pass muster? The problem is, get back up, because I had a call this morning. When the residents make comments at our meetings, then it just sort of goes into etherware. I mean, there's no immediate follow-up. There's no conversation. And what they're looking for is to have that open conversation, which would call for something outside of this venue in order to do that. So could we still maintain legal status and put it in the paper?
And then meet with all council and council chambers?
With the residents that are interested?
So that's a council meeting.
Well, then don't invite all of us. You know, I mean, whatever it is, where you can actually have an open conversation with not just one, but possibly others that need to hear what your reality is, you know, in terms of following the laws and following the rules and Robert's rules and all of that. I'm just trying to find a way that we can meet the needs of the residents as well.
Right, and I feel like, I mean, we had a meeting, some residents requested a meeting, and we did sit with residents, Ken and I, to discuss the topic of the trees. So we did do that. And it was a very free-flowing meeting. So we have done that. Again, you know, if things are brought forward, like the minutes were brought forward, concern with the minutes, and we handled that as council. Other things have been brought forward, and we handle it as a council. So I don't see this being any different. Now, I added it to the February meeting as a topic, and so we're going to discuss the woodland tree ordinance because I hear the concern, and so we're going to discuss it. So, and I don't feel like any group, one or two people, should be representing council in a discussion like that with the public.
I would agree.
Right, which is why we do it in an open meeting. That's standard procedure.
Right. Yeah, an open meeting, though, where you can have discussion. You can't really discuss things here.
Well, that's why I've made every effort to meet with people to have an open discussion.
I'm going to be really candid. Some of the comments are that then the next meeting, you rightly, as chairman, as president of this council and the village, make a statement, and they feel as though they're being negated, that what they were concerned with and what they wanted addressed was somewhat nullified. And, you know, that calling those that signed the petition, that was strange, but
Well,
yeah.
I'd like to make
Frankly,
I'd like to
I didn't
make
call
a
them, they
comment.
called me. People were
Okay.
concerned, okay? I said I called them because I thought it would look better.
Okay.
People called me and
Okay.
were concerned.
Well, I didn't know that.
I'd like to make a comment if I can, then, since
Yes.
we're totally off the agenda, and we've got a lot of things to do
We
today.
do. We have a lot.
you know, it seems like Lisa's in a position where she does one thing she's criticized, she does another thing she's criticized. We used to have discussion meetings. Can't remember the name we called them.
Study
sessions.
Study sessions. And we had study sessions, we didn't put them on tape, so we got accused of doing things in the dark and behind people's back. Lisa reaches out to people who send in petitions to find out what their concerns are, and she gets accused of being strange. It's getting to the
No.
point where it's ridiculous.
I didn't say she was strange.
You said it was strange.
It was strange.
It's
That's
strange
what-
to
so
reach out to
Let's not
a member of the
misconstrue.
community and ask what they were saying? I don't think that's strange. I think that's her trying to do what people want her to do, to reach out and communicate. Just my opinion.
Okay.
I'm in a different environment in Florida, and similar kinds of concerns were brought up, and so we began to have periodic town hall meetings. Are town hall meetings allowed in Michigan?
Yes, but this is a town hall meeting. I mean, any person of the public can walk in and make any comment they want about any subject. Oftentimes, you can't give them an answer immediately, so most municipalities, what they do, and I think generally here too, is you hear the question, you go back, you think about it, you research it, you're prepared to give an answer at the next meeting. You know, to the extent that people want immediate answers, that isn't always possible. And so I guess I'm struggling, and I don't know as much of the context of this discussion maybe as all of you do, but this is a public meeting. I don't understand what we're even really arguing about or discussing, because any person can walk in, say whatever they want, ask the council to do something, and the council will react to it. I don't know. Yes, to answer your direct question, town hall meetings are
In the
are
town
allowed.
hall meetings, which are separate from the board meetings, those town hall meetings have the ability to go back and forth with residents and board members. So there is no prohibition of responding to comments from the audience. As a matter of fact, that's the main purpose of a town hall meeting versus a board meeting.
Again, I see them as one and the same, but be that as it may, if you have a quorum of city council people, you have to advertise it as a public meeting to comply with the Open Meetings Act. So the answer to your question is, if a town hall meeting had less than a quorum, then you don't have to publish it and advertise it and comply with the Open Meetings Act. If it has a quorum or more, then you've got to publish it to comply with the Open Meetings Act. But again, it seems, you know, I've been doing this for 40-plus years, and it just seems like we're splitting hairs here. It's any person in this audience today can stand up and make any point that they want to the council, and the council can, in a reasoned, rational way, research the issue and provide an answer. But that's an editorial comment, so you can forget about that. But the legal answer is, yeah, they're legal.
So once it's advertised as an Open Meetings Act, this is from my knowledge, then you cannot have a back and forth conversation at an open meeting?
That depends on the rules that the particular legislative body establishes. So most municipalities, what they do is they have a public comment portion of the meeting where Bloomfield Township, perfect example. They have a public comment, and people can make whatever comments they want. Then oftentimes the township listens to them and then goes back and tries to come up with a reasoned answer.
But there's no back and forth.
Generally not.
That's
no
what
back.
we're saying, Dirk, is that's what's the missing element. But again, we've got a busy night. I don't want to beat this to death.
The problem with the back and forth, it's not shutting down people from expressing their views, because they can do that. Oftentimes the issues people can't be provided an immediate answer because there needs to be investigation.
The real frustration is, and maybe this is just cause, that they aren't necessarily happy with the response they get in And I think that's probably the frustration level, but.
Yeah, and I think a lot of legislative bodies have discovered that that back and forth lends itself to meetings getting out of control, and they become more argumentative than really they need to be. So, again, those aren't legal questions. Those are just my experience based on other municipalities that I've represented.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like I've heard, like I said, I've heard the desire for the back and forth. That's not what this body does, for multiple reasons. And I have tried to have set up a situation where somebody who's concerned can come in, either talk to me, Ken and I, and have more of a back and forth discussion. It can't be a meeting. So no, it can't.
I'm sorry, I was out of line. I apologize.
So I have tried multiple other avenues to reach out to people, including about the petition. I wasn't accosting people. I was calling people to say, you have a concern, can you tell me more? I did that with 1 or 2 people. And they said, what are you talking about? What letter? I didn't see a letter. I was never presented a letter. I said, well, your name's attached to it. And they said, I never saw a letter. I was only asked if we wanted to increase the, boundaries around the woodland ordinance. So, no, they were not aware of what they were signing. Another person told me, I just wanted that person off my property, so I signed it. Okay, so not everybody's on the same side here. I'm trying to keep the temperature down, and I'm also trying to increase communication, which we've talked about multiple times in this council. And so if I'm going to be accused of accosting somebody because I reached out when they had a concern, then I don't know what else to do. I've set up meetings. I've called people. I've asked them to come in. I've responded to emails. People don't want to do that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've done my part, basically.
Okay.
Okay? And you're right. People don't want to hear what they don't want to hear. Because some suggestions came from that petition, which went through our attorney, and a response was made. And I said at the following meeting, if anybody's interested in the response and in those specific points of what we can and cannot do, please contact the office and we'll be happy to email it to you. Do you know how many people called? 0. So yes, it is a two-way street, and I'm not getting any response back. And I'm continuing to try, which is what I did tonight. So if people just don't want to hear what they don't want to hear, I'm sorry. We need to work within the law. And there's things we can't do, period. And there's things we used to be able to do. Laws have changed. We can't do them anymore. Moving on. Public comments not on the published agenda. Before comment is made, I'd like to read the disclaimer. Comments made by persons during public comment are personal comments and opinions and are not necessarily the opinion of the village council. And the accuracy or truth of such public comment has not been confirmed by the village. The meeting is now open for public comment. If you'd like to make public comment, please step to the podium, state your name and address.
Kathy Hageman, Bingham Lane. I received an email from a resident. I am no longer in office, so this is it. But it brought to light a resolution that was adopted by the council on October 28th, 2019. And in it there were 9 items, and a couple of them had to deal with public comments. And the one that really speaks to what you guys have been speaking about this evening, and it says, in response to public comment and subject to applicable parliamentary rules, council may, but shall not be required to, place the subject of a public comment on the agenda of that or a future meeting for additional discussion. Simple if you think that this is an item that is worthy of discussion of the entire council. You have the option of amending the agenda before you this evening, or saying we will have this discussion at the following meeting. I've made copies for everyone that you can read at your leisure, but it's from a resolution from 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Any other further comment? Moving on to discussion topics. Chief Roberts.
Good evening, everyone. Again, happy holidays. A couple of quick things I wanted to mention that are off from the written reports that we provided to you. You may have seen or heard a lot of information come out, especially from Sheriff Bouchard, about recent burglaries that have occurred in Oakland County as it relates to high wealth homes, very large mansion-type homes. There's not much update to provide you on that, other than to say it is a problem. It is not just a Oakland County or Michigan problem. It is a nationwide problem. The FBI indicates that there's likely over 100 South American, specifically Chilean, crews working at any one time conducting these high wealth home invasions. Bingham Farms has not had one, thankfully. Franklin has had one near Inkster and Northwestern, and then Farmington Hills, right near our border on Inkster and 13 Miles, also had one. Many in Bloomfield Township, a few in Bloomfield Hills, many in Oakland Township way north, and some in Northville. So just to recap on the way these burglaries are going, they are hitting mansion-type homes, several thousand square foot homes. Nobody is home at the time that they're hitting, for the most part. If they are home, it was a mistake, we think. It's only happened one time. They're coming through the back side of the house, generally on a second floor window, generally through the master bedroom window. We believe that a lot of times what they're doing is they're hiding out behind the homes in wooded areas. They like to pick large homes that are surrounded by woods, and we believe what they're doing is scoping out the house ahead of time. They're probably sitting in the woods watching the activity to see if lights come on, see if they see any people coming and going, that type of thing. They come in and out. They're very sophisticated. They have cell phone jammers. They have Wi-Fi internet jammers with them. We know that because in one case they were scared off and dropped them and left them for us. So they're coming into homes, jamming the internet so that potentially the alarm systems won't transmit out if they're over the Wi-Fi. I'm telling you all of this, it's getting a lot of attention in the media, but I'm telling you all of this just so that if you're talking to anyone or for your own personal use, please call us if you see any suspicious activity around the wooded areas in particular, or around your neighbors that may be out for an extended period of time. We really want to be called on those suspicious cars, suspicious people, especially if those suspicious cars happen to have out-of-state license plates on them. That would be very important to us to get there quickly and identify who those folks are. So please give us a call. A corollary to that is if anyone is going out of town for the holidays, please stop by the police department, fill out a house check form. We would love to be able to check your home while you're gone, walk around it, make sure that everything looks good and safe. And if it's not, then we will make a call and identify how we can fix the situation. So please fill out. We do literally hundreds and hundreds of house checks over the holiday period every year, and we want to add anybody who's going to be out of town for a while onto that list. We have been talking to Ken and Franklin as well about a new crime mapping tool. We used to have a thing called Crime Dar, which was a nice system. You could click on it and see what has happened in your area. You know, there was a larceny here, or there was an accident there, you know, that kind of thing. The particular vendor that we were using for that went out of business, didn't bother to tell us, but they went out of business, so we obtained a new vendor for it, and there will be a link eventually. I don't think don't have it yet, but we will have it soon, where you'll be able to click through the village's website and be able to go right to a map, and it'll have little icons on it and tell you exactly. I know Joe used it a lot on the crime dar side from before. It'll have little icons and it'll tell you, if a car was broken into at 13 and Telegraph, it'll show that little icon there. It won't give an exact address. It'll say, the 30,000 block of Bristol Lane, for example. It won't identify an exact location, but it'll give you a good enough location so you can see what's going on. So take a look for that. It should be, we've been talking to Ken, it should be up on the village website real soon. And lastly, I'll mention our new deputy chief will start January 8th, and we look forward to Ken swearing him in on that day, or as close to that as possible, Ken, whatever works for you. So great. And other than that, that's all I have, unless you have questions for me. Yes?
Was there any commonality between the homeowners that experienced the mansion thefts?
I get, there was a lot of talk about that. Many of them were automobile executives or former automobile executives. However, that's not always the case. Many of them were traveling overseas in particular, but that's not always the case. They're very wealthy individuals. We're talking on average 15, 20,000 square foot homes, something like that. Clearly, we are looking, when I say we, there's a task force that's been established by the sheriff. He runs it. Including the FBI, are involved. We meet regularly. We're meeting tomorrow to go over things like that, commonalities and whatever evidence that we have. We have not been able to find anything that's 100% sure on that, other than they are targeting only jewelry in all cases.
Yep.
So they're leaving things in there, like, for example, loaded guns. Right next to the jewelry that was stolen was guns in many cases. So they clearly have a target in mind that they want to hit jewelry because they can fence it quickly.
Yeah.
And that's what they're taking. And they're leaving a lot of other expensive items in the house and not touching it.
And in that one instance, was an alarm set?
In Franklin?
In any of them? I'm thinking.
So in many of them, we know that there was alarms were set and they were jammed, and so therefore there was a delay in any sort of activity because the alarms were transmitted via Wi-Fi and they're using jammers. In the one in Franklin, I hate to dime out the housekeeper, but the housekeeper was there earlier in the day and forgot to turn the alarm back on. So, but that happens all the time. That's quite a regular occurrence.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's it.
On a totally different topic, I seem to remember back when the marijuana law was passed that we had asked you for comments in terms of whether or not you thought it was a good idea to have a marijuana store in our jurisdiction. And I believe I recall that your opinion was that you did not think it was a good idea. And I'm wondering whether that is still your opinion or whether it's changed.
It absolutely is still my idea. I have, that's a very long discussion, and then one we can't probably talk about here in enough time. I have a deep philosophy about marijuana in particular and how it's a gateway drug to many other things, but that comes from years of running drug task forces and things like that. In terms of marijuana stores, there's a couple of things that I will just say. It didn't materialize. Meaning law enforcement thought that there was going to be high crime associated with all of those stores. It was just kind of a given. We were assumed that, hey, once these come in, they're going to attract the wrong type of people into them, and we're going to see, increased thefts. We're going to see increased violent crime. That has not occurred. Frankly, the crime around any of those things that I'm aware of has not been heavy around any of those stores that have occurred. What has been questioned, and this is something that would need further deep dive into, is the amount of tax revenue that's generated from those stores. A lot of cities, villages, townships think that, that's a great opportunity to collect a lot of money, and that's not the case. And Colorado has proved that. Colorado was the first state to approve, sales of marijuana, and even their state legislature will admit it has not been the windfall of profit that they thought it was going to be. A lot of that is it's a cash business, and it's very hard to track what they actually did. They can't come in and use a credit card. It's impossible. It's still a federal offense to buy that if you're using a credit card or any sort of bank account is used that's insured by the FDIC. So another point there, and this is a long discussion, like I said, marijuana is still a Schedule I narcotic in the federal government. In the eyes of the federal government, it is still a Federal I registered drug, Level 1 registered drug. And, that doesn't mean that they enforce it. If somebody's, smoking marijuana on the corner, you're not going to get an FBI agent that's going to come by and arrest that person. But it is still on the books as a federal crime. So that's why I would urge you to stay away from that, if you could.
Thank you.
Still, and we can have a longer conversation about that whole thing anytime you
okay,
want.
thanks.
I'd be happy to.
We have a question in the audience.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm Maggie Van Camp from
Hey.
Bristol Court.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I have an IP phone through AT&T. So they came out and put in a quote-unquote radio frequency. After reading this, that's what's being jammed and so on. Now, I don't have a multi-thousand square foot home. But I do
Me
live
either.
in the woods. I do live in the woods.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a security system.
Yeah.
I called Guardian Alarm and said to them, you have taken my hardwire out, and now I just have an internet over, it's an internet.
Wi-Fi. Yes. Yeah.
And they said, yes. And I said, so what do I do? You tell me what I should do. They're saying you're supposed to have a hard line.
Correct.
I got a technical person to call me back, and this Friday, they're coming back and installing my hard line along with
Perfect.
the internet. So it can be done. So if you get a call,
Yeah.
don't let them cut the hardwood wire at this point, because they'll
Good to
just
know.
jam it.
Yeah. And the reason why, early on, the reason why they went to Wi-Fi was because burglaries would realize that people had a hardwired
I've had my
thing,
house-
so they went and they cut the wires
I've
outside.
had my house broken into twice since
Right.
I've lived here.
Right. If you can do both, as one as a backup, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's the best way to go.
Good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sorry I took
Thank
so
you.
much.
Chief?
One more question,
Chief,
Chief.
just a comment. We have, just to let you know, we have that form, and it's online, and it's also in the office, the house check form, for anybody who's watching on
Yeah.
camera land.
Yes.
We have that.
Yeah, it's online on our police department
Yeah.
website as well, so anybody can fill it out. And, yeah, we would appreciate that. We really want to keep an eye out over the holidays on everybody's homes, that's the way. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Next is the fire chief. Welcome.
Hello, good evening. You have my written report. The only thing I'd like to add is that with the Oakland County new radio system, the Franklin Bingham Fire Department went live today, 6:30 this morning. So we are going to be spending the next probably several weeks to several months fine-tuning all elements of that, but as of right now, we are taking advantage of the system that is covering not only the fire and police department in Franklin and Bingham Farms, but every other fire and police department in Oakland County. So we're very happy to be a part of this. This is a endeavor that's been going on for
Years.
8 years, 9 years, and has cost tens of millions of dollars. So other than that, any questions you have, I'll be more than happy to answer. Otherwise, that'll conclude my report.
Thank you.
Questions for the chief?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Chief.
Have a good evening.
You as well.
Next is the manager's report. Ken?
Hi, thank you. I have a couple of things I wanted to add or expand upon. I had a really nice meeting with one of the property owners in the village here, and I'm pleased to report that they have found an operator for the Mandaloon site. And the forecast is that that would be open in late spring or early summer. I'm kind of excited about that. It's been closed for a couple of years now, and looks like they found someone to operate an American style or American cuisine. At least that's what they're saying for now. And they're looking to add some outdoor seating as well, which would require a site plan submitted to the Planning Commission, but the property owner owns the liquor license, so there's no transfer involved or anything of that nature, which makes things a little easy. I'm pretty excited about that. The second thing is, and it's not in my report because it's sort of premature, but I'll just mention it. They found, as you all know, Noodles and Company has been closed for half a year now or so. They found an operator for that space too, but that person would want a liquor license, and it would require probably importing one or transferring one in from outside the community. It's 6 to 8 months away at least. I don't even know the name of the operator for sure. But just to know, when the time comes, be thinking that that might be something that you might be interested in doing. Because you might have to approve or pass a resolution that would be non-binding. Even so, the Liquor Control Commission does not have to listen to the local community, apparently. But it's something to consider. And that's all I know about that portion of it right now. Yes?
Are there licenses available from other communities?
It typically is, yeah. Yeah.
So they're, okay.
Yeah, you could, the liquor license is Liquor Control Commission, and the liquor licensing law is very, very complex. And it's, frankly, some of it dates back to the repeal of Prohibition. Suffice to say that many communities have extra licenses just sitting around. And if a smaller community or a popular community, like, say, Royal Oak, has all of their licenses used, the only way to get one is to transfer it in from another community. And frankly, I don't know much about doing that, but it's mostly up to the Liquor Control Commission to make that determination. Do you have anything to add about that, Dirk?
Yeah, and, sometimes it comes from the municipality. Oftentimes it comes from a business that is no longer going to be operating in a particular municipality, and they'll sell their liquor license to another licensee in a new community, which is probably what would happen in this case. I'm guessing that the potential owner of this new restaurant would probably try to obtain a license from some other business that maybe is going out of business and wanting to sell their license. So,
Thank you.
yep.
I think all of the trustees got an email from a resident this past week indicating that he wasn't aware of what was going on with the PUD situation. I thought that we had talked about it once before in a meeting, but maybe we haven't. So I'm wondering if you could either update that or just let me know if my understanding is correct or not. My understanding is that we had an agreement and that agreement expired on October 1, and that the agreement was there had to be a shovel in the dirt by October 1, and there has not been a shovel in the dirt, and therefore that the agreement that we had has expired by its terms, and therefore is not effective anymore. And I also understood that you had made a couple of attempts to have the owner/developer come in and talk to us, and he has not, as of yet, responded favorably to that, probably because he doesn't know what he wants to do with it. Is that a fair summary for the public?
Well, I don't know the exact date of the expiration. It was certainly in October. I can say that much. The property reverts back to the original zoning. So it is zone R2 and R3. And that property, so the property reverts back to that rather than as a PUD. The operator would be developer, has talked with me about coming to council and talking about new ideas or new concepts or different concepts, or just to update council on where he is on, or where him and his partner are on doing things, but they haven't done that yet. We have attempted to set up a time for us to meet initially, and that hasn't worked. And we've tried to put him on, ask him when he wants to be on the agenda, and he hasn't confirmed when that'll be. So as soon as I know, you will know.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ken, just to make sure I understand. So the PUD, that property's back to being zoned R2?
R1 and R2?
And not subject to the PUD? That
Correct.
was agreed? Okay.
Correct. That's in our ordinance.
Any other questions for Ken?
Thank you.
Next is the Economic Development Coordinator report. Evgeny?
No comments unless there are questions from council.
How are we coming along with the business licenses? Is that a viable form of revenue?
It brings in some revenue. I mean,
Every
when
business is
we
supposed
say
to have-
viable, what are we comparing it to? Compared to our tax base? No, it's not a whole lot, but But it does bring in some odds and ends here, which help cover some administrative expenses around the village throughout the year.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good allocation of the funds, if you think of it that way. Do you have any idea the percentage of businesses that are now leasing property and the buildings are actually?
You're talking about occupancy?
Yeah.
So as we're starting to receive suite rosters from the building managers this time of year, going into January, we should have a much better idea of that.
Good.
Because this is the time when they send us that, because I use a combination of our tax system and their suite rosters to tag some of the new businesses that I'm not aware of yet, that haven't paid the business licenses, and that helps us keep track of the occupancy as well. I actually had a nice meeting with one of the building managers this morning.
Yeah.
That's the 301, 400 buildings on Telegraph there. They're struggling just like most commercial property owners post-pandemic, but they've got prospective tenants, they've got continuing tenants, they've got renewals. Their biggest issue is tenants that want to continue being tenants but want to reduce their square footage because everybody's downsizing how much office space they need. So filling in all those little bits, odds and ends, is the challenging part for a lot of building managers.
So the two big things are keeping track of occupancy and growth, hopefully, and then the revenue that can be generated by each of those occupants having a business license.
Correct.
Yeah, good job. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Evgeny?
I'm noticing that this summit about the invasive species is scheduled for March 16th.
Correct.
And that they were still looking for a venue to host. Would that venue have to be within Bingham Farms, or is there?
So this summit, it's a regional summit that would be Oakland County-wide summit that I don't know if they host it every year or not, but they host it with some frequency. So that's definitely not going to be a Bingham Farms specific event. I wanted to notify you and any residents that read through our packet of that event coming up. As I find out more information, we'll probably post information about it on the website as well, so that if it's something that's open to the public, people can attend and learn more. If it's not necessarily open to the public, then one of us will probably attend and report back with what we learn. But yeah, that was just there for informative purposes. I am working with the SISMA coordinator currently to look into the opportunities for having a seminar on invasive species for Bingham Farms in Bingham Farms, so that we could have it open to our residents. So, but I think with the year end and planning of the summit, I'm a little bit low on their priority list when it comes to responses. So, so when we get there, we'll get there.
Any other questions? Moving to old business, Bill, the finance update resolution.
Yes, well, good evening. Season's greetings and happy holidays to all. Glad tidings. Tonight I had a memo that I put in the packet for council. It addresses two of the next resolutions in one motion, and then we'll get to the treasurer's report. But I just wanted to go through and first of all address the finance update for approved depositories that we brought up last council meeting. So I've reintroduced it to council to add two new credit unions that we would approve as depositories in order to take advantage of their current CD rates. As far as I know right now, as of today when I called, there's still no plan, there's no change, there's still options to go there, even though the Fed met, and I do see in other banks a little bit of slight movement down a little bit on interest rates, but I'm told that the ones that perked my interest and seem like they're very attractive deals are still there. So the other thing I just wanted to bring out was the discussion that we had last month with the amounts not to exceed $600,000 as it originally was. We wanted to move that up But this resolution brings it back down to $600,000. I've done some research, and the concern that I had was with one of our investment brokers, the amount that we had in it. But there was a resolution that was passed in 2022, it's Resolution 2022-18, that eliminated that issue and addressed it, so that is no longer an issue going forward. So again, for council's a resolution for council's review to add both the Dort Financial Credit Union and Michigan United Credit Union is before you tonight in a resolution.
So, Bill, with the multi-bank securities, we're still 600 each with each one of those, what we had discussion last time?
Yes, they're
Okay.
pooled, and again, Resolution 2022-18
Took care of that?
took care of it,
Okay.
right. Council voted to lift that restriction. Any other questions I can answer? I'm sorry, Denny.
Move to adopt this resolution.
Yes.
I'll make a move to adopt the resolution regarding the addition of the 2 additional.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
I would just note that I'll recuse myself from the vote on this based on the letter I provided to council back in 2020 on my inability to make to vote on anything that relates to investment decisions because of my position at the firm that I work at.
We will note that. Thank you very much. Roll call vote.
For the record, I'm still going to call your name. Right. Blackbird,
Aye.
Hageman,
Aye.
Hedge, Howard,
Aye.
Craybill,
Recused.
Jones,
Aye.
Mashigian.
Aye.
All right, that passes. 5 to 1, or to 0 to 1, if you will.
Thank you. Moving to new business. Bill?
Yes, thanks again. So the second resolution, now that this passed, or regardless whether it passed or not, I took a look at the village's investment policy. And the resolution before you tonight is to amend that investment policy. I have outlined within the memo some of the reasons. One, we're going to add the 2 credit unions, so they have their own version of FDIC federal insurance. So we've added that to the investment policy resolution, which is the NCUA, which is the National Credit Union Administration. And then I also had found out, and we're removing from the former investment policy, savings and loan. That was in there. Savings and loan was defunct as of October 8th of 1989. So we want to remove that. So I've detailed out what we deleted and what we've added in the memo, and that's what the actual amending of the investment policy reflects. And again, any questions that you have, I'd be happy to take up and entertain.
Any questions? Would anybody like to offer the resolution?
I also move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Good catch on the 1989 thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
This is a roll call vote.
Right. Hageman,
Aye.
Hedge, Howard,
Aye.
Craybill,
Recused.
Jones,
Aye.
Mashigian,
Aye.
Blackbird.
Aye.
All right, that passes as well. Thank you. 501.
Thank you. That will take us to the agreement for IT services. Bill?
Yes, the third item that was also detailed out in my memo. So I wanted to bring this as a motion in front of council and making the recommendation as I start looking into, we just recently, I think in the last meeting I commented on it too, we switched providers for internet service from Comcast Business to AT&T, and I kind of did a deep dive with them as far as what type of antivirus or whatever that they perform or provide to us through it. They do somewhat, but it's not robust enough, in my opinion, in my recommendation, that the village needs to have something else other than what is just very minimal. And I've done a couple of, I did some research and talked to a lot of other treasurers and treasurers that when I attend Oakland County, as far as companies that are out there that provide that service. And this company is called VC3 Inc. They were formerly IT Right. They are going to, their proposal is to provide antivirus to help us against anything outside the network from any type of malware or ransomware. They'll basically serve as our kind of help desk, IT help desk, to help us with things. They back up our systems, and that was one of the things that I found very attractive with what they do. They back it up, and then they just capsulize it offline, and they'll continue to keep those backups, but they break it away from the network, keep it solely on itself with no interaction or no attachment. That way, if something should happen and we get a ransomware or everything just gets locked up, they're able to reinstall that last version that has not been touched, and we're back in business, which we do have insurance against ransomware and everything, but this is another preventative. I mean, we were talking about hardline for alarm systems and Wi-Fi. I want to make sure that with all the information, the bank account numbers that we have in the village, all that proprietary information that we have, that is protected. And I feel that they are going to do a very good job as it relates to that. I've also had, when they sent me both their master services agreement and their essential orders, which is basically their proposals of their services, I had the village attorney go through it, make sure that it was up to date. We requested a number of different language changes to bring it in. Those language changes were accepted by the company, sent back to us. The exhibits and/or the master service agreement and the proposal that's in the packet reflects those changes. We made it change to state of Michigan versus other venues that are out there. And like I said, our village attorney, Dirk, went through it. We gave them a list. They've accepted it. The other thing that I wanted to, and have provided in the packet too, was a list of the 36 municipalities within Oakland County. They do have a they're national, so they have many customers without, but I just thought I would give you a flavor of the other county or municipalities and police departments within Oakland County, of which there are 36 that they're currently actively under agreement with VC3. And the last portion is a summary cost. This agreement would be a 36-month agreement. There is a $500 onboarding fee. That's a one-time charge, and then they charge $320 per month on an annual basis. On the anniversary date for year 2, they have the right to uplift and increase the rate by either the CPI and or 4%, whichever is greater. I had them give me the exact CPI website or the metric that they use so that we know and I can monitor what it is. And again, they have the right to increase the rate for year 3 at the anniversary date. So overall, I don't know what the CPI is currently that would be available in year 2, so I used 4%, and the exposure that we would have over 36 months is $12,487. I also wanted to mention that we currently do have a provider that takes care of kind of our IT portion, which substantiated that we do not have security protection against outside network malware. We would have them, VC3, should you approve it, we would have them work with our existing provider and transition it over, and then we would no longer need the services from Emacs, which is currently the company that provides kind of help desk and backup services for us. Yes.
Ken, have you worked with them when you were in Lathrop?
IT Right?
Yeah, no, VC3.
Or was IT Right?
It was IT Right, yes.
Yes, I did.
Okay, what did you think?
They were very responsive, but they were based in Bath that time. Are they still based in Bath?
They are. As a matter of fact,
Okay,
what's
good.
interesting, I'm sorry, one other thing, they have a really good working relationship with BSA, which is also in Bath, which now we have them as our general ledger and accounts payable.
I was never disappointed with anything they did.
Okay, good. Couple of things. So we seem to be going in a different direction, meaning I thought we were trying to cut costs and look at ways to streamline what our needs were. And I would never not want to secure our information. I think that's critical, having worked in the industry for 31 years. And I understand about deliverables and networks and security and cloud, and it's, do we need full-time? I mean, if we secure storage, that's separate. We have antivirus, which is 24/7, 365. I don't know. I know it's only $12,000 over 3 years, $13,000, which is not a huge hit, and probably worth it considering the other side of what could happen. I don't know. I'm just voicing thoughts. Yes.
I had a similar concern. I had a conversation with Bill this afternoon, just in terms of like, where's the money coming from for this? And my understanding is that there's approximately $6,000 in the budget already for IT services, and
Yeah, it should be.
and that we would be terminating the services of the existing provider, so that net, it's not even $6,000. It's less than that. And Bill indicated that he thought that it was within our budget, because I had that concern as well.
Do you know what the net number per year is after the savings of terminating the other contract, roughly?
Actually, I'd have to go back and look at what we have done with Emacs because they were both on the old system and the new. I can tell you that, I detailed out, and I think you're asking a different question. Year one cost is the $4,340. Year two cost with the 4% would be $3,099 and $3,993.60, and year three would be $4,152. But you're asking
what's the reduction?
The reduction,
yeah, roughly.
Six something. It was 12,487 minus 6,000.
Yeah, we typically see from Emacs about anywhere from 1,600 or 1,800 to 2,000 a year. It changed a little bit this year because we have a couple of things that happened. One, when we had the power surge, when the electricity went out, we had to have the copier scanner fixed. So that was a bill that we weren't expecting. That was close to $900 to get that back up and running. So, you put that away. The other thing, too, that I wanted to do is, as I was looking back through this, I wanted to mention, too, I also reached out and talked to Raina about it, our auditor, because to get her feel for other clients that she has that are not in Oakland County. She has Livingston, Washington-on-Wayne, and they came very highly recommended as well by her. The one set of costs that we had when we initialized BS&A to have them come on board and get us up and running on that piece of it. There's a portion of that I actually need to reclassify because there was training that was in there for $2,000 that I actually want to put in. I have, they trained me, and I have up to $1,000 a year, so I want to work with Raina to reclassify that, to bring and adjust some money to make sure we have it in the budget. I also did reach out and get a couple other quotes from a company called OnePoint. I asked Emacs to provide a quote. They were only going to be willing to provide for firewall, and it was still like, OnePoint was like $2,400 just for the firewall without backup and antivirus, as sophisticated as what VC3 covers. So my point, Kathy, is to present it. That's my recommendation to council, and then whether, I'm always looking to save, but my viewpoint is we've got a lot at stake, and I don't want to be held ransom or have our data or information compromised.
Yeah, two questions. What are Franklin, Beverly Hills, Birmingham, Bloomfield, what are they doing?
Southfield Township uses VC3. Actually, I chatted with Beverly Hills. They're in the midst of looking at it as well as who they use. But when I went through, again, and went down and just looked at and talked to some of the treasurers that I attend Oakland County Treasurers meeting with and reached out, and then my predecessor, Greg, has used it. He currently is using it in Clarkston. Joe Ferrari in Oxford is using it, and they just came highly recommended.
Yeah, I noticed there is a long list in Oakland County. I didn't look at any other counties, but it's just interesting that the surrounding communities are not. I'm just curious, what are they doing? The other thing is their contract. I went through, this is sort of like what every page looks like. It's points of discussion and clarity, because it's not just the contract. If anything should happen outside of the scope of work as written, it's going to be a couple $100 an hour plus travel time, plus hotel and meals and all travel expenses to come and do a repair.
Yes. Those are their fee schedules. I don't anticipate, I mean, from what I'm hearing, as far as of what they're able to handle, how responsive they are, and how good they are.
And how much they can do remotely.
And how much they can do remotely, yes.
Big.
Yes. For instance, we have an issue, we call the 1-800 number, they port in, right, work it, and typically their average time is, it's resolved within same day, if not within the same hour.
And I've seen that.
So,
They take over the computer.
yep.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's just, this is out of the blue. This is the first hearing of this, and maybe it's been mentioned before and I missed it, but I'd like to finish reading the contract, just to see what else they bring up. Dirk, you've read it?
I have, yeah.
Okay. And nothing out of
From a
line.
legal standpoint, we had 4 or 5 things that we did have issues with, and they made the changes that we asked for. So.
Yes.
When I was going through my built-up mail, I had 2 notifications from 2 different healthcare agencies of data breaches. And so there are some folks out there who were targeting hospitals, and are there targets for any municipalities that you are aware of for data breach?
Not that I am, although I will tell you this, within the last probably 2 to 3 weeks, I have been on 4 WebExes regarding, a lot of them are banks that are seeing a lot of fraud that are taking place, both lot getting into and taking over the account, and also just changing and doctoring checks. Working with that, and then there's just another number of just various groups within Oakland County that I was on one, and the other one was within it was a municipal league that was I'm trying to think of the 4th one that I was on, but it's obviously, we've seen, if you look at the news, there's an awful lot of type of cyber security issues going on, especially related to the bank. As a matter of fact, the bank just updated the way that we use electronic deposits. Instead of going to it, I use one here that I just electronically. They've actually got a new version that we just installed last week, Thursday, that gives more protection. They've issued PIN numbers now in addition to the fob. So I have to put in the fob number, and then when I log on, it sends me a text that says, okay, now you need to put this number in, and then I have to put my PIN number in order to be able to access it. So they've really been strengthening up the whole access portion in order to be able to get into accounts.
I will say, when our previous treasurer was leaving, I did an exit interview, and I said, if you were to stay here, what is the one thing that you would think would be most important to accomplish if you were going to continue working here? And he said, strengthen your protection. So I think, this has been something that we've bounced around for months, and obviously Bill caught on to that quickly and dove in deep. So, it might seem like it just came up now, but this has been going on, this kind of discussion, since our previous treasurer. And he said, I've seen some, the result of some breaches, and it's really difficult to go through that.
A couple things. we're using our same equipment, so no computers are involved with this, and we're not getting any new equipment for this, or are we?
No, we don't have any servers. We don't have any point of sale because we only take cash or check for taxes for receipts in. All we have is the 3 desktops and the 1 laptop that's used at Somewhat. So they would cover the backup of all of the 3 desktops, the applications that are on them, and the laptop. There's no new equipment that we would be looking to bring on or replace. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know when the last time was when we just had these new desktops installed. A couple of years, 3 years ago. 3 years ago.
That sounds right. I think it was 2.
So if those broke down, these guys don't cover it, that would be up to us then?
Yes, that's correct. They would not. They would make recommendations. They'll help make recommendations and look for sourcing, but no, they would not. That would be something that we would have to go out and either, bid out or look to procure on our own, just like we did when we replaced the 3 that we currently have.
Because my first thought when I went in here, it said 12,500 basically. I figured, okay, that's about 10 to 15 feet of road. But at the same time, you've been able to acquire some money from the Birmingham Cable Board, so that could cover then my other thought to what Kurt was saying. Okay, this is money going out, and then realizing, okay, we got 3,600 coming in from them, probably yearly. So that comes close to what we'd be spending per year.
Correct. And the other thing, too, is once, if council decides to move forward and approve it, they are currently scheduled out, he said, like about 6 weeks. So we will really be looking February, March, April, May, June. So 5 months. Yes. Yes. And again, all I can do, council, is make recommendations. I don't like to spend money, believe me, I don't, unless I feel that it's justified and it's something that I have to do to protect the village and bring it to you, and then you all are the ones that approve or decline.
And just to be clear on the financial impact, it's about half or a little more than half of the number you're talking about that's the net impact on the budget. That would be roughly right?
Roughly.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not 4,000 a year, it's 2,000 to 3 after you cancel the other contract.
Yes, I would, and again, to just be very, very clear, I need to go back and look what it has been, because like I said, we had an incident that typically doesn't come up with that. And I did talk again when going through with everything, if we need to, we have other contingency. If we need to amend the budget going forward, then we'll look at doing that. But based upon what they're offering, what I think is the village needs in order to stay safe and secure our data, all I can do is bring it up to you all and let you guys decide whether or not you want to move forward with it or not.
Yeah, and Aaron, I think what you brought up, I don't think we factored in, again, that money from Birmingham Cable Board, or have we?
I have not.
Okay, so there's some money right there too, which is...
Well, is that where it's going to go?
Well,
It's all functional.
it's, yes,
Yeah.
it's money, it's income, so. But that took care of basically cable, internet, and phone, I think, if I remember.
Yes,
Yeah.
internet and phone, correct.
So this company does not produce software. They don't code, they don't write. Anything that they need, they will purchase from a third-party vendor.
I think that they already have licensing to provide any of the services that I've outlined or that they outline. Yes. I don't know whether or not they specifically, I'm sure they have some coders that help fix and tweak things within their own system.
Well, the next
their
question
software.
is the upgrades and updates that are done on software. They would do those, and that's included in their service?
Yes.
Is there anybody else we should look at?
Patch management, yes, they do that.
Is there anybody else we should look at? Do you think you pretty much
Like I
research just about what's ever out there?
Yeah, I did 3. Typically, at least I do 3. And again, what really set it off was just talking with other treasurers, colleagues out there, running it by Rainit and make sure to get her viewpoint of what other ones that are outside of Oakland County use. And they've come back with high ratings, so.
Do we need to make a decision tonight, or should we?
Well, it's on the agenda to make a motion, so if somebody wants to make a motion to move forward, we can do that. If everybody feels that they are not ready, then we'll table it.
Mhm.
Kathy, how strongly are you feeling about wanting to read the rest of the contract?
Well, I just want to make sure that we don't move quickly and then regret. But Dirk has looked at the contract, Bill has done due diligence, Ken has worked with the predecessor. And how often do they back up to the cloud?
They back up, actually, they'll back up to not the cloud, they'll take it and store it on themselves. I think it is at least, if not at the end of every night. I think he said at the end of every night.
So it's not in the cloud?
No, they're going to,
No.
they'll pull it into it, and then they capsulize it and keep it separate where it's not attached to anything. And their whole rationale behind that is, if there's tethers into it, it could be corrupted, and that's why they want to make sure they run the antivirus, they back up, they hold it off, and then they'll back up again. And that way, if there is an intrusion that gets past their antivirus or malware that gets in, they have a clean copy that they can restore from.
No, when they back up, do they dump what they had before, or does all this backup stay?
I believe they keep I don't know how long they back up, but I know that it's the recent copy, and I don't know how far back they can go. But if that's a question that, again, if you guys don't feel comfortable, want to not move forward, I can absolutely research that and find out.
I mean, I read a lot of 24/7s in here and 24/7 365, but I just wasn't sure about that.
Is that something that would change your mind?
Not really.
So is there a motion to,
I'm comfortable in voting tonight, but in respect to my fellow trustees, if there's someone who doesn't want to vote tonight, I'd be willing to put it off for a month. Just, I mean, I think people have given me the opportunity to have things go over for a month, and I'd appreciate it sometimes. So I'd defer to, if somebody wants to have one more month, I'd be willing to wait. If nobody wants to wait, then I'm ready to vote.
What do you
Same.
think, Aaron?
Same. Yeah,
Okay, Diane?
Same which?
Same, I would be ready to vote.
Oh,
I'm ready.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready to vote.
Yeah,
is there a motion?
also move.
I'll second.
Motion to approve the agreement for IT services. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I say that I think Bill's done his due diligence, that's why I asked the questions I did. And I think if you have that many other municipalities that obviously seem to work well with them, you've worked with them before, so that's, I think, a fairly good recommendation. And it's, one of them is our own Southfield Township, which takes care of us, so.
Yeah, good point.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Bill, for all of your time and energy on that.
Welcome.
Next is the zoning ordinance amendment, the first reading. Ken?
Yes, thank you. This is a first reading, so there's no action required of you this evening. As a refresher, in October, this board instructed through a motion the Planning Commission to entertain certain zoning amendments that are basically references to the code book, which relate to basically development and construction. So the Planning Commission took that task, discussed, held a public hearing, got input from the consultant, and basically approved verbatim what you're asking, and recommended approval to you. With the exception of one additional item, they added a reference to swimming pools.
I meant to ask about that, yes.
Yeah.
Explain that one, please.
So what you have in your packet is my memo, a memo from the planning consultant, a draft of what it will look like, and a draft of what they changed. And then next month, you will be asked to, as in the second reading, asked to approve this. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
This is what you had brought up originally.
Yeah, I brought it up before the
Yeah.
council, and I attended both of the planning commission meetings, and their
I thought it was a good idea.
their suggestion about the swimming pool is one that, quite frankly, maybe I, overlooked or whatever. So I thought they actually strengthened it a little bit.
Okay.
Strengthened it in what way?
Well, by adding the swimming pools, and then they changed. I don't know how to explain it. We were going to go through each line item and say, chapter 36 of the village ordinances, and rather than do that 7 times, they just put at the top, village or other village ordinances, so you didn't have to
Yeah.
It just made it more clear.
It made it user friendly. Yeah, I thought.
Yeah.
So they're going through is, therefore it became much easier to get through, yeah.
Just to be clear, that's where the swimming pools got added. Nothing actually changed in the ordinance relating to the rules around a swimming pool.
Correct.
No, that's correct.
Yes, it's just a reference, so
make sure
that
that-
someone reading that knows that there's some
There's something
ordinances
on
about
swimming
swimming
pools.
pools. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like they may not know that a swimming pool requires,
Fences or whatever.
really, okay. Yeah.
So,
So that's your first reading, and we'll have it back next month for an approval.
Madam Chairman, can I ask, this next one I think is going to be fairly lengthy. Can we have like a 5-minute break?
sure. Let's,
Thanks.
I don't know what I have to officially say.
Don't- Dirk, don't we have to move for a recess, or no? No? Okay.
Chair can just declare 5-minute or 10-minute recess, however you want.
Okay. All right.
5-minute recess.
4.5. I'll show you after this meeting. I have a 10-second video I'll show you this weekend. It's pretty nice.
And
Good
move
call.
on to, still in new business, the roads subcommittee discussion. And you want
Yeah,
to
sure.
start it?
Let me just hang up the spam call. There we go. Okay, so we heard from our engineering firm last month. We had the presentation with the estimated costs, and following the presentation, the council discussed creating a subcommittee for roads. And a couple of things that you need to determine as far as this advisory committee goes, and the bullet points are outlined in the memo that I presented to you. We should probably go down the list here and discuss all of these things. Also, the form in draft is attached in your packet here as well. We can discuss that as well when we get to it, but it might take some time to get down these bullet points, so I guess it's open to discussion at the council level.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, I think the best way to do it is just, like you said, start going down the bullet points. Hopefully, after reading the packet, everybody had time to think about it. So let's start with the size of the advisory committee. There will be obviously council members and residents. So I have discussed this a number of times with Ken, and normally in the past our committees, and it seems like a reasonable size to have maybe about 5 residents and or probably 2 council members. That leaves an uneven number of 7. If we go to 5 people, if a couple people can't make it, then you have a teeny tiny meeting that's probably not as productive as it could be. If you start to get up to 9 to 11 people, that just,
Way too
again,
many.
isn't very productive and manageable. So if anybody else has any other ideas, but I'm thinking 2 council members and 5 residences.
Residents?
Residents. That.
Let me just
that
ask a question about the 5 residents. It's my feeling that there needs to be some sense of neighborhood representation, especially since we have condo owners who own their own roads and have, I think, a lot different viewpoint about the financing part of things. And so we need to know what we're going to encounter if anything comes up to a vote.
Right, so we discussed that, I think at the last meeting, of having it be, I don't know what my language is, like geographically equal in the village. So the idea would be, once the applications come in, to go through the applications and get, maybe like 1 person from the Bristol Lane area, 1 person, like a private road or a condo person who's, they all share the same concern. Somebody from maybe like the From area, possibly even, I would like to get somebody from, is it Brooks Lane? Brooks Lane, which comes in off of 12 Mile. So geographically diverse.
Okay, but the other part is about 50% split between condo folks and individual homeowners. And that is a big influence. So if there's only 1 representative from the council, or from the condos, and 4 from private homeowners, that in itself has the group leaning in favor.
Well, just to be clear, this advisory committee is not going to vote on anything.
I understand
right?
that.
So they will make a recommendation to council, council will decide. I think it will also, like, we have kind of a diverse council member representation here as well. We have a private road and condos represented here. So, I don't think that this committee is going to be able to lean one way or the other. We're just looking for facts. So, if it starts leaning one way or the other, it would be the council people's job as representation on that committee to steer everybody back on.
Okay, well, I was just,
Right.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll find a perfect mix of people, but I think we need to make sure, my view would be is we need to make sure we've got each group represented. Maybe they're not perfectly equal, but I think having, and making sure that if there's as we have a large population in this community that live in condos, if we have one person, it's got to be someone who can really communicate the views of those people, so they'll have to be a pretty strong.
that would, yeah, that's a
person,
big challenge
yeah.
because there are
But-
3 separate condo communities here.
Yeah, I would, from a size perspective, my thought is, we can have up to 3 people from council, is that, not more than
We
3?
could have up to 3.
But would that then limit someone else from council coming and sitting in?
Yes.
So that would mean that no other council member could ever attend those committee meetings if you put 3. So that limits that. That might be a reason. I was initially thinking 3, but now I probably would be more supportive of 2, so at least one,
We could
the
do
others could rotate.
3 and like a substitute or something like that.
Yeah.
I like the idea of 2, and that now it's not classified as a quote-unquote meeting. So therefore, law-wise or legality-wise, we would be fine.
But even at 3, it wouldn't be.
At 3, yeah. Once you-
But no one else could come and attend
Correct.
as
Right.
like, sit out there.
Because I was thinking too, as you and I discussed, that either Bill or Ken would also attend, just to
Yeah.
have the office portion in there too.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Or you could just post it as a public meeting. It's not all that big a deal. And that way you could have 2 members on the committee and council could come and, the other council could come and talk too, so.
Yeah.
I think, Ken, your intent was to adhere to the Open Meetings Act, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Okay.
that would solve that problem.
Yeah,
I didn't think of what you said, though.
Pardon?
I didn't think that, sorry.
So,
I didn't think of that as a solution, but I guess it works. Yeah.
so you're saying if council member were in the audience, that's fine?
As long as you post it as a public meeting, yeah, and it's really not that big a deal to do it, so,
No.
yeah.
So that means you could have 3.
You could have
have
3,
4.
you could have however many you
You could-
want, but,
Yeah, at that point.
but, you could have the 2 on the committee, but if somebody else wanted to come, another council person wanted to come and talk, they could.
Or 2 council members could come and
Yeah.
talk.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think
as long as
that's
you post it.
important,
Yeah.
not to limit the council members participating in it.
Well,
so.
yes, and you don't want council members, and I'm not saying this would be intentional, but to overpower the committee.
Correct.
Right?
I agree.
That's right.
Madam Chairman, I think it's understanding what the committee is charged with accomplishing. And I know when we first got the first report last spring, it was a lot of technical information. And it's just like asking for the syllabus because it's a whole different language. And I think the goal for this particular committee was not to represent geographically, but to get the talent, the work experience, the education, the engineering brain trust of the village, if you will, to come in and provide some comment and do some of the the work in order to look at some of the findings and help us look at prioritization and finance and, having somebody that has, like you're in the world of finance. I have a neighbor with a PhD in economics from Wayne State University that would be possibly an asset to have when you're talking about finance. You had mentioned communications, that you wanted to be able to develop a communication system to keep residents informed of what was going on. Now, I see that as a separate committee of people that are representative of all the communities, because this is not a voting group.
It's an advisory, yeah.
Yeah, they're advisory, and they're here to gather information, put it into a framework of understandable words and numbers, and to look at options for paying for it, and what are the costs of each, and drawbacks and benefits of each, so that you have, I looked at our neighbor in Birmingham, like is 30 times the population that we have, but they have 24 or 26 working committees of residents. And one of, they have a form, application form, and they ask, what credentials do you have that would lend value to what the goals of the committee are? So we don't really have the goals of the committee. I think that would help us once we understand what are the goals and objectives of the committee, of how do we get the right people on the committee.
Kathy, if I could speak to your point, under topics to be studied, to me, that's where those goals and objectives become
I just
more
hadn't gotten to that yet.
Yeah, more and more firm. And there's nothing to say that this initial formation of discussion doesn't say we need a finance subcommittee and we need a PR subcommittee.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to say that those specific areas of concern may not result
Sure.
in more additional advisory committees.
Go ahead.
I think both comments
Yeah.
are applicable. I think you do want to try to have as diverse a group as you can have, because I think there's some advantages to that in terms of like how you're going to structure these proposals and trying to make sure that the community might actually be okay with them as much as you can when you're trying to raise $6 million. But I also think that, there has to be considerations for expertise. To the extent that we can get someone who's is good at finance, to the extent that we can get someone who knows, how construction projects go, because part of it will be like, well, which road are we going to do at what time? Like, how long is it going to take to do the road? If we're not going to have all the roads done at once. So I think it's got to be a combination of all of that,
Right.
of what both of you said. And I just, and just to get back to where we were, I think I heard most people saying that they thought 7 was the right size.
Mm-hmm.
And the only issue.
In total, yeah.
And the only issue then for size now appears to be, do you want to have 5 residents and 2 council members, or 4 residents and 3 council members? At least that's what I've been hearing people saying. And so if we can resolve that, we can get the one issue resolved, then we can move on to the next issue on our list.
I'm in favor of 2 and 5,
Yeah,
very strongly.
I agree.
Aaron, do you have anything?
Nope. I'm not sure we need an odd number. I think 7's okay. Probably, if you asked me, I would have said 6, but I have no problem. If the group says 7, I'm fine with 7. I just
It depends,
cognizant that
if
the
they're going to
group.
be there anyway, so.
Yeah, I'm cognizant that the group doesn't get too big, so we can move through. And obviously, anyone will be able to participate and have
Right.
comments, but if the group's around 7, I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with that.
Just to let you all know, I do have so far not expressed interest from 9 residents who are
9.
interested in
That's
serving.
Excellent.
And that's just now. I mean, if you're going to appoint them next month, for example, we might still get a few more.
Good.
And I'm going to go out, even take this a little bit further, because I know we're talking about topics we discussed. But to me, I foresee this starting now and continuing until the roads are basically done. And it not necessarily the same group of people going through the whole thing. I foresee the first thing we need to worry about is finance and timeline. I know I'm going to topics to be studied, and then once that happens, then that is kind of massaged into it, and now you have a group of folks that are going, okay, what are we going to do next? How are we going to do the roads? They're going to work with HRC, and things go that way. So I kind of see this as evolving
Yeah.
into maybe a number of different communities, or that community changing individuals to see what happens. This isn't something I think that's going to happen in 6 months and then go away.
Well, first of all, are we agreed it's 2 council members and 5 residents?
Works for me.
Are we done with that part of it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the next part is
Committee selection.
committee selection, although I did want to address your comment. I viewed it as completely different from you. I view this as a committee that's going to bring back 3 or 4 proposals or 3 or 4 options for this council to vote on.
Oh, yeah.
And-
Absolutely.
And that has to be done by a certain time if we're going to get it on the ballot.
If it even goes there,
November.
yeah.
So I view this committee as being for a limited time only. Like, I view it that there has to be an outside date by which they report back to us so that, you know, I mean, once we, even after we make a vote, then we have to like have ballot language prepared, correct?
Has to be prepared and filed with the county by beginning of August, second week of August.
Okay, and how long does it take to prepare the language?
Not long.
Not long, so.
No,
So
we're
we
not
have
at
to-
that big a time crunch.
We have to have a result by
But
like,
after the vote is
May or June.
taken, is when we need the committee to go to work. Then you're going to know what the outcome is.
well,
You know
that
what I
might be a
mean?
whole new, that might be a whole new committee.
That's what I'm suggesting. That it will evolve.
And it
Either
won't be the
evolve
same
or
people,
or
but
be a
over
full
time.
different
Or be
committee.
totally different, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
some of the council members may not
be here.
by that time, because then
Right.
you have the vote in
Right,
November,
right.
some leaves. So maybe it's,
Right.
you view it as evolving. I think you're saying that maybe it's just a new one.
Yeah, I'm
To
saying it's-
to then go, how are we going to monitor the actual execution of it, or whatever the next
Right.
Okay.
phase is?
Yes.
It's perhaps the recommendations come to council if it goes to the ballot and it fails, then you're
You're back to square one.
yeah, the scope of the committee has changed quite a bit. If it doesn't fail, you know, okay, but perhaps after the recommendation in August or July, I guess it would be more like July because we need some time to move it to
You
council.
probably want a recommendation by June.
June, okay, all right. Then maybe the committee gets paused until the election, if that's the recommendation, and council decides on it, and then it picks up again. That's,
So I envisioned it as being, you're right, like right now, we just need to know, you know, getting from here to November, if it's gonna go on the ballot.
Right.
And like Ken said, if it fails, not much more to talk about right now. Or if it is gonna go on, but if it is gonna go on the ballot, I'm thinking it really needs to come before council by like April or May. Like, I think council has to have a couple of months to,
Well, from a strict legal standpoint, you need it by June, because you need the recommendation by June to talk about it. July would be when you would approve the ballot language, and then by August, it would be presented to because your August meeting is gonna be at the end of the month, so it's gonna be past the deadline by which you've got to get the language to the county.
right,
So
I'm just thinking.
you need to take action on the ballot language in July.
Right, but I'm thinking council needs a couple of months ahead of that
That could be.
to talk about it.
So you're
No,
at
The
April.
language?
not just the language, but the whole, if it's even.
The recommendation.
What the recommendation was.
Because we don't know what the recommendation will be yet.
Right.
That's why we're performing.
So-
That's why we're putting this whole thing together.
April is extremely ambitious, I would think,
Right.
for a project
I'm
like
saying
this.
April or May. I mean, if,
Again, you know, I can draft the ballot language relatively quickly, but you need the recommendation to be made to council and council to agree with the recommendation to draft the ballot language.
You know,
And the
maybe-
ballot language has to be adopted by the council before the August 13th date.
right.
So, which means really July is when you
July.
get it.
I'm just worried if it comes in June and we have questions or questions we want to throw back to the committee, we're not really going to have time for that.
Yeah,
Again.
but maybe this is the time then to institute the study sessions of the council so that we have more frequency of meetings between when the committee gives us their recommendation and we get ready for ballot language or not. So maybe we have a moratorium right now on study sessions, but this may be a reason to resume council study sessions.
The ballot language is going to be the easy part. It's
Right.
the recommendations.
The recommendations of how we, yeah,
That's where
are
the
we gonna go?
discussions
That's right.
of an open study session would really come into play.
Right, there's just a whole thing around study sessions. You know, I don't want anybody saying we did this behind closed doors.
No, but.
So,
This almost acts as, but yeah. The committee selection process, we still need to get these things in before we can even make a recommendation or a look at that. Is that true?
What, you mean, you need to,
Residents?
Well,
you mean to have the applications
you have the
in?
applications in, yeah.
Right.
but once the applications are in, what's the process?
Then we need to look.
Wouldn't you just have?
Is that what you're asking?
Wouldn't council just make the selection? I mean,
Well, I think the other thing is to bring them in and interview them, those that are the viable candidates, is to actually speak with them. Because if they haven't had the opportunity to understand the scope of the job, then they're volunteering for something.
And
that they-
whomever we have as council members then could certainly do the interview and/or talk with them.
Well, in my opinion, the way that we've always done it in the 6 years that I've been on council, with the exception of the filling the one vacant seat, was that the president, in conjunction with Ken, reviewed all the applications, did whatever interviews were necessary, and made the appointments. And even though I might have, in fact, I know I have a different opinion from our president as to how the road should be financed, I still think that that's the best way to do it.
I think having us all get a chance to look at the applications and voice our opinion is a healthy thing.
And I think it's important. We were all elected.
Right, which that's the way the appointment went. Everybody got all of the applications.
Yeah.
And we're given an opportunity to review all of the applications.
Not to meet,
And-
and that's a biggie. I think it was a mistake. We should have been able to actually meet with the candidates. And I think with this,
So
I
you're
think
gonna-
it's something that is important.
So you're going to have a public meeting to interview the candidates?
Yeah, that's going too far for an advisory
Yeah.
committee, I
Right.
think.
I mean, it would
All
have to be, it would be subject to the Open Meeting Act, again.
if council is going to do it, it would have to be an open meeting.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the way to do it.
No, I think down to 2 or 3 people. And whom I would also suggest, if possible, then the 2 council members would then also be maybe part of that process.
I don't have a problem having anybody be part of the process. It's the same thing we did last time. As a matter of fact, I went a step further. Previously, council was not given all of the applications. I made the suggestion to include all of the applications in the packet for the last appointment. So everybody saw who applied and had the opportunity to call me and discuss that. So I'm not saying I have to do it, I'm just saying I don't know if now is the time to change a long-standing process of president appointing. Not just because of me, but the next president and the president after that. I just think that process has worked well traditionally for decades.
May I?
Yes.
The president this is how it's been, the president appoints, but the council votes on those people.
Right.
It's not simply
Right.
the president appoints and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have the opportunity to vote, and frankly, just, the manager doesn't have a lot to do in that process. I'm not appointing anybody. You mentioned my name, and I just wanted to make sure that people were aware that I'm not doing the appointment.
Okay.
Okay.
I feel that the head of the committee, who will be a council person, and the president, who will be a different person, I think those two are the most viable to confer on who should be the members of the committee from the general public.
I don't know that the head of the committee will be a council member. I don't think, unless we discuss that. I missed it.
Right, I think that's something that's still up for discussion.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think that's,
Go ahead, Aaron.
no, I think that's yet to be, I
Yet
just
to be determined.
want to make sure that, I don't think that's, I think we should discuss that.
Okay.
So we send out the applications. We put a deadline on when people have their application in. Then what happens next? Hopefully, we're not going to wait until January's meeting to move forward.
I had several years ago, when Lisa and Kurt were running for office, I held a discussion at my home with all the potential candidates, and the neighbors sat in, and so that really wasn't a one-on-one interview, but it was a chance for others to hear. Can we do something like that? Just have a...
I just feel like time is of the essence right now. I mean, I think if the applications come in, I can call everybody and interview them. And then talk with the committee members whoever we decide is going to be on the committee, and sort of go over all of the background information that I've collected. What is your work experience? You know, how can your experience lend itself to the project? All of that stuff, I can collect that information, and then, discuss it and make a choice.
Can we all get a copy of each of the applications?
Sure, that's the way it was done last time. I instituted that.
And so if we know one of the applicants, are we discouraged from chatting and getting a little more information directly with that applicant?
Well, first of all, I have a feeling that you probably know quite a few of the applicants. I can say that much. I don't know about the chatting part. I mean, I guess what does everyone else think about that? I mean, it's kind of hard to keep those sorts of things quiet. I imagine that people are, I'm just out of deference to everybody. I'm not revealing all the names that are on my desk right now, but I have a feeling that some of these folks have already talked to other people and probably some folks know who's who. It's fun being anonymous, or trying to keep everyone anonymous.
We're a small community.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't keep people from chatting with people in their neighborhood, but I don't know how that chat would change the facts of who's going to be the most qualified.
The reason I'm saying this is, when we had the election and we're filling a vacant seat, there was an individual who I knew nothing about that I had to vote on. And I don't want to, I don't think that's the way to do it either.
We didn't do nothing because you got the application.
That's all I got was the application.
Right.
But I didn't get a chance to ask some questions. Especially on the financing part, that's going to be a real sticking point.
So are you saying 7 people need to interview this person, each person?
No, I'm just suggesting that maybe more than one. One person who will end up being on the committee. I think we should possibly as a council, see if we can agree on who would be the lead ambassador from the council.
When you say lead ambassador, you mean just a committee member from the council?
Yes.
Well, I think, are we going to look at credentials from council members? Like, we know Aaron has finance experience. He's a numbers guy. DE has been in industrial design and project management. I mean, they're both qualified people. You know, medical sales, tax IT,
Attorney?
marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, good for communication.
Well, it's a matter, too, of what kind of time commitment
Yeah.
that we have to give outside of the council meetings.
Good point.
You know what, maybe we should discuss when the committee will meet, date, start time, frequency, before we decide, before you all decide who might be best fit for the council members on the committee, because that may determine.
Well, is it something they should be deciding? Meaning the people that are actually going to have the meetings?
I don't think so.
No.
I wouldn't say so. I would think that you could all make that determination.
It's
Even
just
if
like
we're not
planning
attending?
commission. It's like planning commission. We don't ask planning commission when they all want to meet. This is when planning commission is meeting, and if you want to be on planning commission, this is what you need to make yourself available for. So I think we need to come up with the time, like you said, the day, the start time, is it's going to be once a week or once a month, twice a month, especially now that we know we have this limited window for it to get on the ballot, if it's going to go on the ballot.
I suggest that we start out with bi-weekly.
I agree.
I agree.
And it's not a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday.
No.
Thanks.
So council and planning both meet on Mondays.
So Wednesday used to be the study sessions, and so maybe Wednesday might be a good day.
Does anybody oppose Wednesdays?
How about Ken and Bill, is Wednesday sound?
Yes, that's fine with me.
So bi-weekly starting on Wednesdays, and I think the start date is as soon as we have a council together. Or, excuse me, an advisory
An
group.
advisory, yeah, committee.
Start time?
I'd say 7:30, a little bit easier to get here.
7:30?
Okay, maybe
Then they
not
can-
7:30.
All right,
o'clock.
7?
Pick another time. Is that warmer?
I'd say 6 or 7.
Or 6:30?
6:30?
6:30?
Let's say 6:30.
Okay.
6:30.
How long would you envision the meetings being?
How long would you envision the meetings?
Probably an hour and a half.
An hour to 90 minutes, more than likely. Depends on the topic, I guess, of that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Initial meeting may be a little bit longer, and then everybody goes off, formulate some ideas, come back. Here's what I would recommend, here's some ideas.
Right, but that's just, but we wouldn't want to tell any potential candidate about this that they're going to be out at a certain time, because as we all know, these things
Yeah.
don't really have.
We don't know.
Yeah,
It's slated for, but.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm hearing twice a month on Wednesdays, starting at 6:30. The goal would be a 60 to 90-minute meeting, and we would start this as soon as possible, but, I mean, it's got to be January. So-
After the January meeting.
Yeah, right, so it'd be February,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
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 So you've got about 6 sessions
Yeah.
with the advisory group before you're looking for recommendations then. So you've got February, March, and April looking for recommendations, May.
Right. That's the goal.
Mhm.
The council meeting is on the 29th of January, is that right?
22?
22nd?
Yeah.
22nd.
So the 22nd is to vote on whoever's
And
recommending.
there's a difference between bi-weekly and bi-monthly. This is,
Every 2 weeks.
This is every other week, which
Yes.
is more meetings. than
Which is,
necessary.
I mean, that's a lot, and
It's
I
a lot to
envision
ask.
that might be initial, and then it might go a little bit longer between meetings after that.
Yeah.
But that would start on the 31st or the 7th?
I would start on the 31st, just get it going.
Yeah, I
Let's
agree.
start as soon as possible.
Gotta get it going.
31st of January.
January 31st.
Dirk, if you're asked to come to a meeting, are Wednesdays okay for you normally? 6:30?
Yeah, I could come to a meeting on a Wednesday, yeah. I can tell you right now, bi-weekly, I will not be able to do that.
Right.
I wouldn't.
But yeah, occasional, Wednesday's actually the best day for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that
if
works.
there was something that came up, I could
Wednesday's the best day for me.
ask you to come. Okay, good. Um,
I'm about to be a lot more business.
All right, so we've got that set.
Topics?
Yes.
Recommendation. That's
Well-
the primary topic.
Yeah, but in my view, they should be coming back with at least 3 potential recommendations for the council
Absolutely.
to consider. Like number 1 to me would be do nothing. Okay? And what does that mean? Number 2 would be some sort of millage increase. And number 3 would be some sort of, I would guess, combination millage special assessment kind of thing. At least those 3.
Or else, then timing could also come into play with the recommendation. Maybe we need to build the pot larger with an immediate increase going to 12 mils before we even, so that, I don't even want to hold the advisory committee's feet down by telling them what kind of topics. To me, that's the first meeting.
Well,
That's-
except we're having it for them to bring us back something that we can
Act on.
act on, right? And I don't think we want just one option. I think we want more than one option.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why we're going through this process too, is, I may have one idea, but talk to me. What have you got?
Right.
What have,
Yeah, I would-
I'm looking for ideas. Maybe something we haven't even thought of. That's kind of what I'm looking for.
I mean, you get blank, chalkboards all over a room ideally, just to start the ideas flowing.
Yeah, I might say that we'd ask them to come back, as to not frame it too tight, so come back with feedback on doing nothing, doing it over a 3-year period, and doing it over a 10-year period. And underneath that, there'd be various financing options, whether it be through increased millage, through special assessment districts and a millage. I don't know that I would hold it to set the options based on purely the financing, but those time horizons. And then you may have, because there may be ways to achieve one or all of those with various options. That's how I was organizing it. My head would be more of do nothing, take some short amount of time to do it, take a long amount of time to do it, and then the financing options sort of fit, the way you pay for it fits in underneath that, understanding that there should be some consideration of whether there's a need for, whether we should present an option for, so it's like maybe 2A is pay for it all with taxes, and 2B is pay for it partly with taxes in the special assessment district. And obviously, one requires you to raise a bond, one might not. Those sort of fit in under the larger options.
One of the reasons why I'm looking forward to something like this, I think we would get a lot of, who knows? I don't know what we're going to get, really. But can I go back with what Erin was saying, is that's why I was thinking, how are we going to finance this thing? But then that finance thing goes along with the timeline. As you said, we're going to do it in 2 years, we're going to do it in 5 years, we're going to do it in 10 years. 10 years might be a totally different way of financing something than we would in doing it in 5 or 2. because I'm looking at what are we going to finance, and at that point, then, okay, HRC, we have this money and you have this time frame. That's what we're paying them for. But I don't think this committee even gets to that point yet.
Well,
I
first of
think
all, we
it's-
have to come up with 3 bids. In your HRC, you have this much money, we have to get
No,
bids.
they
whether-
do that.
They do that.
You hire a third party to go out and bid this. And those bids aren't, that's how I understand it. We're not going to go out as the council and get through. We
No.
would hire a
That's what
consultant to
HRC
go out and
is.
do that. They would come back to us. I mean, what they provided were estimates based on all their experience.
Can I ask a question about how we're paying HRC? Are we paying them specifically through through November's presentation, and now they're off of our ticket, or is all of their work?
No, they have a contract with the village to handle all engineering consulting services. It's ongoing.
Okay, so far their work is part of that contract, and we have enough money in the budget to be covering
I
what
would say
they've
so.
done so far?
Yes. Some of their work comes out of the Oakland County Stormwater Planning Grant that we got almost a year ago now, I guess.
Mhm.
And some of their work comes out of a different pot, the ARPA fund pot that we have. And then the third pot is just the general engineering consulting that we pay.
Okay.
So they're with us still. No issue with them
Okay.
disappearing.
Yeah, you hate to start the whole process all over again.
Right.
So I think I'm agreeing with you. In terms of financing has got to be a big part of it, but the other part, and I think I'm agreeing with you too, is the timing of it.
Yes.
Like, are we doing it in a longer or a shorter period? And even like which road goes first?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, I'm hoping that the proposals that we come back with, like, lay out a plan as to like how we're going to do this, like how many years
Yeah.
and.
Yeah.
Hence a timeline.
I guess I thought that the recommendation would come back with different options on how much to do, how long to do it over, and how to pay for it. I didn't think that this round would get into what order to do it in or things like that, because I don't know, like, we got to get through whatever we need to get through that's relevant to present to the public in the ballot. I don't know if in doing that we need to say, well, we're going to do from first, and we're going to, I'm just making up roads I know the
That's
name
right.
of.
I agree. I mean,
Except that, I mean, like, don't you need to know, like, let's say we start with the money that we have on hand.
Yeah.
Don't we need to know how much the first roads are going to cost and whether we have enough money on hand to do those roads?
That's what we would ask HRC.
Well, they have their
And-
estimates right
and-
now.
And don't we then need to know, like, well, if we're raising the money over 5 years, how much money will we have left to do the second years and the third years and the fourth
Yeah.
years and the fifth years? You have to, in my
That's fair,
opinion, you have
yeah.
to have like a timeline in terms of like when the money's coming in and when the roads are being done to know whether you have the money to do each year's road.
Yeah, I guess what I figured in that scenario, I mentioned kind of 3 just really high-level scenarios. The middle one, which is get them done fast, would be some kind of bond raise, and then you try to do them all. And I don't know that I would go through the ordering of, if you're going to do them all in 3 years, what should you do? But to your point, if the third scenario of mine, which is, look, do it over a decade, starting with funds you already have, then the ordering of the roads becomes more important into that scenario.
Right.
But I guess I viewed it kind of go top down on those scenarios and with financing being a key to it. I think that for the option of doing it over a long time would be important to decide on the order to figure out how much you would need to raise and when.
Right.
Isn't another way of saying it, they'd be looking at the nature of the project, and then once they've figured that out, then how you pay for it?
I guess, but I thought they should come back to council with not just one path.
Oh, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I
Come
agree.
back with a number of different
Absolutely.
ideas, and
Yeah.
here's why this one would be good, and here's why
Right,
this would be good, and
exactly.
here's why this would be good.
And some of those other ideas may have to come to fruition if the millage does not pass. And so that's why those second alternatives really need to be well thought out,
Yeah.
third alternatives. Because we don't want to go back and say, we have nothing as a game, plan if the millage fails. And all this was for naught, so.
I personally think this is really ambitious to do by April. I'm not suggesting we shouldn't try, but
I think we have to try and see how far we get.
Yeah.
I think so the other
Because we know they're not
option
even going
would
to be able to
be,
start until 2025 anyway. Earliest they can be able to
Well, the question
put a
is,
shovel down.
if this is gonna go on a ballot, and we don't make this November 2024, then our options would be a special election, which costs the village money, or we wait until 2026.
how much
but-
money?
2026.
Right. But
And 2026 means we would have to
we
The whole new
start
council.
all over.
we'd have to start over.
Right.
Yeah,
We'd
the
have to
numbers will be completely different.
Right.
And then the question would be, you waited 2 years and now it costs X amount more. Like, it's not gonna get better,
Mhm.
it's only gonna get worse. So, I know
All we
that
can
this
do
is
is
an
start,
ambitious
see where it
lift,
goes,
but like,
absolutely.
You have to
we
start.
have to
I
get it
think
done.
we go for it.
Right. I mean, we have to, we've come this far. If we
Yeah, we know they need, yeah.
gonna have a resident, committee, then, like, this is what they're tasked with, and we have to support them in any way we can, and give them all the resources and time and energy that we can.
Yep.
Because I just don't think the other options are great. The other option is we don't put it on a ballot, and we just make a decision. But I don't think any of us wanna do that.
Well, it
So,
also depends on what the committee will come up with and what the recommendations. One of the recommendations may be, we don't need to go to the ballot, we can do it this way. I don't know yet. Haven't heard the recommendations.
It's possible.
You're definitely going to need a cycle time with like if it's April, present the April meeting, there's going to be it's going to need to be at least one more time to come back to, because I could see the committee council providing a lot of feedback to that group. They have to go respin, change.
Well,
The one-
especially that's on an ongoing basis as well. Part of the thing
Yeah.
with having the committee members, 2 of them coming from council, is that, we'll be getting updates
Absolutely.
and being able to
Yeah.
ask questions
Oh,
and kind of
absolutely,
work
yeah.
hand in hand
Yeah.
along. It's not like we're gonna wait till the end and then
Boom, yeah.
ask a bunch of questions.
The one drop dead date is if you do want to get something on the November ballot, you're going to have to approve it at the July meeting. That's a drop dead date.
And that's the language you have to
The
approve.
language you would have to approve at the July meeting.
what is the cost of a special election? A range?
I'm not really sure. It
10
would be handled.
10 to 15,000.
That's all?
I think it's more
I
now.
was gonna say, I thought it was
And the
25.
reason why I say that is because if you have a special election, you have to have a center now open for early voting.
Oh, early voting, you're right.
And
Yeah,
it's- I think it's
forgot
9
about the early
days.
voting. You have to have the 9 days prior. Yeah, I forgot about
So
that.
it does cost more than just having a one day with collecting your absentees.
I know the last special election we did in Auburn Hills, which has a larger population, it was about 10 to 15. But again, that was before the early voting amendment, so that's
But
true.
that could be rolled into the cost of the project. And if they've got a 25% contingency on the numbers they were giving us or whatever,
I don't think we can.
Well, it's 50% total, 25
Pay for
for
special
one area and
elections.
25.
another 15,000 is going to be a drop in the bucket on 9 to 12 million.
We can't use roads money for a special election.
That-
Yeah,
it'd have to
I'm
be
pretty
general-
sure not.
It'd have to, no, it'd have
But
to
we've
be,
got the 3
it'd have to be
million
general
in-house
fund
in
money.
general fund that we.
That's true.
Yeah.
You would generally think that, though, you would get better turnout at the normal election, right? So that
Yeah.
might be,
For
Yes.
sure.
that's
They're all
another
there.
reason to try to,
in this election, you will get a heavy turnout.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what was the consensus on topics then? Financing and staging? Would that be a
Timing.
word?
Timing and
Finance and timing.
financing. That's it.
Yeah.
Cover the areas.
Is that-
Those-
is that-
those-
okay.
I wouldn't say staging, because I think that HRC would have a heavy recommendation regarding staging.
Okay.
in terms of which roads need, which roads are
Oh, yeah, that's-
are most dire, need much more attention, or which ones are
They've already given us that.
maintainable. Well, yes,
Well,
We have that.
in a sense.
To a point, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Well,
like.
pretty detailed.
Yeah, as I said before, okay, guys, we got this much money in this timeline. What do you recommend? And they may say, okay, we'll do this and this and this, and then, so we would have to work hand in hand with them.
And they would
And
be,
again, we don't, because again, I don't know what the recommendation we're gonna have. They may decide, let's do it all at once, let's go for a bond, okay?
HRC would be invited, or a representative would be invited to a meeting
Oh,
from time to
absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.
I mean, maybe not every single one, but you'd want them there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for some of them.
One of the first requirements for every candidate should be to have watched in detail the November meeting with presentation.
We could
Absolutely.
email that link to them.
Absolutely, before they know what, so they have some idea of what they're getting into and the level of complexity this project holds.
So timing instead of,
Yeah, we'll call it timing rather than staging, yeah.
fine with
I
me.
think I understand.
Fine with
I
me.
know, but to actually hear, because there were some things that I heard in that meeting that,
And-
maybe could influence this whole thing.
And we're going to try to have a recommendation, or recommendations by May. That's the goal.
I thought it was April.
I think, but May should be fine, don't you think, Dirk?
May.
Oh, I would think May should,
May.
We should have
Yeah.
recommendations.
that would give you May and June to think about it, and July you could adopt ballot language if
Yeah.
you decided you were going to take something to the ballot.
How about
so.
no later than May?
Yeah.
Right.
Do your best. Full steam
Figure,
ahead.
I envision us working on it at the May meeting. And
Could be.
so having time during May and June.
I would definitely call a study session before the meeting.
We'll see.
Yeah.
So, is there anything,
I think we pretty
We're
much
missing-
figured out what the timeline's gonna be.
so the location will be council chambers for all the meetings,
Yeah, I think that works out well.
following the Open Meetings Act. There will be an agenda, which the chairperson can work with our office staff to create. And the only other thing that we touched on but maybe didn't decide is, and maybe we don't need to do it now, do we want people from, I think it was recommended earlier, geographic location?
We
Like,
look at who we've got applying, first of all.
Yeah.
right,
And then,
Who's put their hat in the ring and then go
yeah,
from
because
there.
if we solicit
Oh, sure.
someone that doesn't want to be on the committee just because we're missing a geographic pouch.
no, we would fill them in with somebody else, but I'm just saying the goal should be, even if we could find somebody like, I think if somebody knows, if we don't have a representation from like the From area or whatever, we could try to reach out and see if we could get somebody from that
Well,
area.
Ken, if you could just give us the general areas that are represented now by your candidates, then we'll know that we should start.
I wouldn't say we need to start until we get the applications. We haven't even
He's got 9 now.
sent them up.
I only have 9 people who have responded, they're
Their
interested.
names.
I don't have, no one's filled out anything yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought
We
they
haven't
filled
gotten-
out.
Still a draft.
We haven't
Right.
gotten to that
Yeah,
yet.
I wanted, that's our next little topic.
Okay.
I guess I offer to the
Could you
council
come to
that-
the,
I
sorry,
beg your pardon, yeah.
name and address?
Jeff McCollum, 30153 Bristol Lane, I think. I would make an offer to you that I think the number one skill set when I think about having managed billion-dollar automotive programs is how to get the most for the least number of dollars. And you need some engineering skill sets to do that. More important than where they come from, it's the skill they bring to that group. How you get the most value for the least number of dollars. And there are people, I think, that we can draw upon to do that. And I think you ought to think about that first and foremost. Before you think about anything about geography or how to sell it, get the most, at least number of dollars. Then you can work with that.
Well, I would agree, we want to get the most for the least number of dollars.
And what, $9 million, you could probably get that down to like a lot less.
I don't know, but I think,
Sorry, I've been involved in big projects. You can get a lot of stuff out of that, those kind of projects. Don't think you can't.
okay, thank you. I still think it's important from a communication and a representation process to have people from all the different areas of the village, the condos, private roads,
They're all voters.
north of 13,
That is
south of
secondary.
13.
That is secondary.
I'm
No, it's
sorry,
not.
I'm sorry.
Wait, Lisa, the
I had a
committee,
comment, and you told
we
me to
have
dismiss it.
3 people from condos. We have the 4th person from a private road. These are the people that are voting, not the committee, the advisory committee, but we're very diverse. I mean, have we ever had a private road resident before? So it's really not, in terms of the work that Aaron and DE, if they're the 2 members, requires somebody that has dealt with multi-million to billion-dollar projects and can look at all the numbers that are coming in and where they're going out and understand timelines for construction. They've built, Ford Motor plants in Africa. So, it's a little different than somebody that lives on Bingham Lane that was a medical sales rep.
Right, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, I think if we have, I think we're gonna get people that have the qualifications. So, I don't think everybody I think the committee needs to be more than just high-level people. I think it's also important that people feel like their neighborhood is represented in this.
That's right.
So it's just like me saying, well, we don't want anybody from a private road or a condo association if
Sorry.
they're not highly qualified.
Mhm.
Well, that's not true.
That's going to skew.
We want somebody from.
Those are going to skew
that's-
discussions. They will.
Right, so, or,
Within the
we
committee.
don't want nobody from the Bristol area, nobody from a public road north or south of 13 is represented. I think that can affect people's vote.
Well, it's not that we don't. I'm not saying if you found somebody, another person on Cardinal Lane that had excellent credentials and could add a lot of value to getting a finished product, then go for it. I think we don't consider where they live. That's really, at this point, it's not material. And if they live next door to you or next door to you, go for it if they have those credentials and can think in that's a different train of thought for an engineer.
I thought we decided already that we were going to try to do
We're
both.
going
Try to do both, yeah. We
to
do
cast
the
a
best we
big
can.
net
Right.
for applicants.
Right.
Cast the biggest net
Right.
possible for applicants. Once we've got the pool of applicants, we say, okay, here's what we're dealing with now. Let's pick A, B, and C, who comes to the top.
Right, which is,
That's it.
which is what we would do, but what I'm saying is, I do still think, I'm sorry, I think it's important to have people represented.
I do too, I do too.
And so if everybody lives on Bingham Lane, who's the most qualified on paper, and nobody else gets a representation, I don't think that's
I agree
us doing our
completely.
due diligence.
I agree
I think if
completely.
we get somebody from Bristol who has a different view, who thinks in a different way, sometimes that's the best way to
That's exactly
generate
right. Yeah,
ideas.
that's exactly what I'm looking
Engineers
for.
think a lot alike. Their brains function a lot alike. I don't know that we need 7 engineers, because you can have a creative person who comes up with something totally different that the engineers wouldn't have thought of.
Absolutely, that's exactly what,
So-
I'm in support of that.
Right. I think we're all kind of on the same page.
Let's remember too, that there are gonna be open meetings and that there are gonna be people who probably can't attend, who may weed themselves out because they are gonna be on vacation for 2 months or something of that nature. They can still come to the other meetings. There's gonna be everyone can be here and everyone can hear,
Right.
and we would want their contributions as well.
Absolutely.
Whomever. We already have, as I mentioned, there are 9 people interested. There's a committee of 7 with 2 from council, means that there are gonna be some left outs. That doesn't mean that we won't wanna hear from them. And it doesn't mean we won't want them to be in the audience.
As you said, if you're going to meet every 2 weeks for a couple of months, I really can't put in that time. Okay, thank you very much.
Right.
We appreciate it.
Right. Which is what the interview process would.
Yes.
would bring to service.
Yes, this is what we're going to do, this is kind of what we're thinking of. Are you still interested? Terrific. What do you bring to the table?
Okay,
Have
can we move to the application? Everybody has a copy of the application.
The reason why I put this before you is simply because, I mean, Lisa and Evgeny and I worked on this. I liked it. I thought it was fine. 3 or 4 of you contacted me and said you thought it was good. Kathy, you mentioned that you wanted length of residency on here. The only reason why I didn't include it was because I didn't think that would be relevant as a matter of qualification. Number one, and number two, maybe it's intimidating to some people who haven't lived here that long. But it's up to you guys. When I email this or present it to people, that would be something that we would mention, is that here are the parameters, or maybe we could tweak it to include the parameters. It'll be every other Wednesday starting at 6:30. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'd almost turn this around and say, do you have the time and effort to commit? Because that is almost saying, well, if you can't, then why are you filling this thing out?
You want that at the top? Is that what you're saying?
I think the form's just fine the way it
I
is.
think he wants to flip the language at the
I think you guys put together a decent form.
I think it's
Okay.
great. Let's move
I
on.
think the form's fine.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll vote on that. Good. Okay, good.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report, Bill. Approval of the bills.
You awake, Bill?
Yes, no, I'm absolutely here. Within the Treasurer's report, we have motions for approval of the bills. In your packet, you'll see that the check disbursement report is a shorter month this month, out of the general fund from November 22nd, 2023 through December 13th, 2023, totaled $140,108.21. Check disbursements out of the gas and weight fund for the same dates, November 22nd, 2023 through December 13th, 2023, totaled $5,030.20. Total of both of those are $145,138.41. Any questions?
Is there a motion to approve the bills?
I will so move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Bill,
Great.
financial statements?
Yep, second motion on the agenda is to accept the financial statements for November 2023. And again, I direct you towards your packet. As is every month that I review, period ending November 30th, 2023. We are now 5 months into the fiscal year, or approximately 42%. We are tracking on the expense level under the general fund of 38.85% of the budget used. Last year, I always go back again, as I always say, and look at what we were last year, and we were at 38.5% last year as well. So we're tracking right along where we should be. I will also move to, and we'll take questions on both or any at any time, the investment portion for November 2023. I've updated, the investments are there. I will call to your attention that there are some that are expiring or maturing, I should say, in December, and you will see the updates of what takes their place next month. But the one addition that I wanted to call out under the general fund is the Michigan Class Pool that we have now that is doing very well. It's at average, it gives an interest rate on a daily basis, but it's about 5.55%. And we have $599,330 in that investment currently. The total for the general fund, as you can see, is $3,862,926. And if you look down at the road funds, those have not really changed. We have one that's maturing that's coming up that is a U.S. bond that's matured, because it matured on the 4th. So we're working through the settlement process on that to redistribute the $250,000. But we have the Oakland Pool Superior National Bank CD is going out until July of 2024, and the total for that is $1,125,300.
I have a
Yes?
question on the financial statement, so, or the revenue and expenditure report. So, on the tax line, the current real estate tax line, in the budget, we've got $1,748,000. We're 76,000 under that. Is that just literally folks that haven't paid their, I mean,
Yes.
do we, I don't know, because I know the $1,748,000 was also an estimate. How much of that 76 do we expect based on the bills that were?
I should have
do you
had
know
it.
offhand?
Yeah.
Sorry, I should have asked you.
That's all right. I have all the detail, and I can provide that to you as well. We are currently, I believe, because we just had one payment in just within the other day, we have 52 parcels that have not paid their taxes. Of those 52, 10 of them are real property. The other ones are personal property. Matter of fact, personal property assessor came in today from Oakland County, introduced herself to me, so we chatted for a bit. But yeah, those taxes will in fact, at a certain point in time, be turned over to Oakland County.
Okay. Maybe at the December meeting, if you could tell us of that, there'll be a different number, I recognize, but of that number on that line, how much you expect to collect versus how much is just going to be, our estimate was either high or low.
Low.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, which I think you'll know based on the bills that were sent, right?
Right.
So I think if we could, I just want to get a gauge of whether, because the whole budget works as we set out, as long as the revenue numbers right now, we're up in interest, as you've talked about the last couple of meetings. So we've got other items to cover that too.
Mm-hmm.
But just being that's such an that's most of our income. I'd like to understand that next month.
Okay.
I guess
At the January, I said December, January.
is the budget for real taxes not actual? It's an estimate?
I think we
It's
estimated
based upon the fact of what comes back as far as assessment valuation.
Yeah, because
from-
I don't think we knew that. At the time we set the budget, we didn't have we didn't know exactly what the tax bills would be. It was like what was last year plus an estimate of
Of what the
they
board
would go up.
review. Right.
Oh, okay.
So, because
I didn't know
you
that.
wouldn't have known that, back when we
Right.
set the budget, that you wouldn't have had the new assessments done yet, so,
It's every year.
Yes.
Yeah.
but so it was based on last year's actual plus of whatever factor we agreed with. when we
Right,
went
and what
through it.
came back from the Board of Review.
What came
Right.
in, yeah. So I don't know that that's my view is that 1748 we didn't send bills exactly for 1748. We did send bills for exactly some number. It'd be interesting to see how that compares to the 1748. So because then the rest is just collectibility.
Right.
Collectibility.
Yep, I can get that for you for the January meeting.
That makes sense, Kerry.
And doesn't the amount that's uncollected after a certain amount of time go to the
Goes to the
state,
county.
and they pay us?
Goes to
Yes.
the county.
Goes to the county, and then the county, we go through settlement, and then we'll be getting like checks as they recoup delinquent taxes. I've got ones that have been from 2001 where they collected it and they forwarded on to us to clear. So yes, it goes to the county and then we settle.
Okay.
The county actually pays us and then goes to collect them on the real property portion of it.
Did we do what we were supposed to do with this?
No.
Anybody else have any discussion?
Is there a motion to accept the financial statement?
I would move to accept the financial statements.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Could I ask our treasurer for one additional off-topic question, and that is,
Absolutely.
I view one of our most important duties as trustees is oversight of the financial situation. And this is not in any way directed at you because you're not responsible, but I mean, I don't ever remember not having the audited numbers by December, ever. And I mean, is there a problem, or I mean, I saw the letter that said that she doesn't think there's a problem, but I just don't know why we haven't gotten it yet. It's a little bit, to me, it's a little bit worrisome that we don't have it.
Our external auditor, I've had many conversations, and she's telling me that it is not an issue with anything that seems out of whack that's going through. It's just simple fact that she has so many meetings and so many ones that she has to attend to. And she confirmed that she will definitely make sure that we have it by the early in the week, and that everything that she needs to file with the state will be filed from a financial perspective before the end of the year.
Do we need to, like, and again, I mean, seems like she's always really done a good job for us and stuff, but, I mean, is she too overburdened to get it to us on time? Do we need to, I mean, is it just that this is the first time you've gone through it? Could that be it? I mean, I don't like not getting the audited statements until, January. It's just not, is it because we're just small and so that we're on the bottom of the pile? I don't quite get it. Maybe I'm.
I think we're small and probably on the bottom of the pile. That would be my guess. I don't know Rain's business, but that could be part of it. I'm sure that the system would deal with the system stuff too, that take new accounting. That there's something there probably, but
That contributes a little bit more having to go across both of them. But
do we have to approve them before they're filed?
no, she will provide the end results of the audit, present the findings, and review it with you all in January, but we'll have it in December, and she will, because I know that all of you are very interested in making sure that we're able to have money in order to do what we do, like fund the roads in the road account under the general fund. And she said she will make sure that the filing goes in to the state on time.
But we don't have to approve it before the filing, because I thought we always approved it, accepted those audited financial statements, but we can accept them after they're filed? It's strange.
Do you know anything about that? No.
Acceptance and approval are two different things, really.
Okay.
We have accepted means it could be amended later.
Okay.
But besides that, I do not believe it needs to be approved before it's filed with the state.
Okay. It's obviously important we meet that deadline.
Right.
Bill, could you maybe reach out to Raina?
Yep.
Tell her that council's concerned
Absolutely.
and just reconfirm or confirm that we don't need to do anything before it's filed with the state.
I've done, but I try to talk to her almost on a daily basis within the last, couple of weeks.
Right. Maybe just extend our
Concern. Yep, absolutely.
And I hope that this is a one-time occurrence and won't be happening every year.
Right. Is there anything that next year we could help to expedite or,
Mhm.
that we don't really want to be in a position again next year?
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions on money? Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
We need a motion to go into.
I think you're going to do trustees'
Trustee
comments.
comment.
I'm sorry.
Because you're reversing.
I'm sorry. I didn't write it on here. Okay, we're going to go to trustees' comments.
A side note, I am the personal recipient of our police department's home watch checks. And my ring doorbell, someone at your front door, and there's the officer. Physically checking the door, making sure
Nice.
that it hasn't, that was very reassuring to me. And I appreciate that. In looking at the discussion on tape, which I really appreciate having, there were some things on the road presentation that were concerning, especially when it came to the logistics of not wanting to pave major roads, because to get to the secondary roads, if you would, you have to drive over these newly paved roads with these heavy trucks. That's a big piece of information. It's a big piece of information that this advisory committee is going to have to deal with on PR and everything else, and what decisions are made. and how we go about things. So that's just something that, said we got to talk about this a lot more.
I'm not sure I understand, like, what you mean about going over major roads.
I understood one of the gentlemen saying that it wouldn't be prudent to, for example, do Bingham Road when you've got to go down, another back road, Old Stage Road or whatever, and then do that by bringing this heavy equipment loaded with all of this, composite material or whatever on this newly paved road. So they were saying basically start from the outside and work your way towards the majors.
Do the most remote, smaller, most remote roads.
Yeah,
Do Sage Road before you do Bristol Road.
yeah. At least that's what I got out of it.
See, to me, that's automatic.
Well,
So,
They did
yeah.
discuss that, yeah.
it needs to be discussed, because maybe you do Bingham Road as a patch job, and then you do the others, or, who knows?
Yeah.
That's a very important piece of information for the committee to act on, because that almost forces a decision in another way.
Yeah, I guess I didn't hear it that way, so I'm interested.
Yeah.
I guess I was thinking more of the courts. Like, you wouldn't do Bristol Lane and then do Bristol Court.
I think that's what she's saying.
Right.
I think they're saying the same
Yeah,
thing.
Old
Orchard is
Okay.
a cul-de-sac off of Bingham Road, sort of the same idea, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So the major roads would be done last, according to
Yeah.
that. Now, I don't know if that was a recommendation, or if that was the way that it has to be done for purposes of the project. I don't know.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Right, I was gonna say, I think it also has to do with, like, the condition of each road and where they lie.
Yeah.
Some it's okay to let go a little bit further, maybe you don't want them to go a little further, but others are so bad that it's like,
Yeah.
you don't wanna let them go any lower, because it's gonna get really bad,
Yeah.
so. Okay.
Anyway, that was just
Mr.
I
Hayden?
don't have anything, surprisingly. We didn't have a Birmingham Cable Board meeting this month, so we'll have one next month. I'll have a report then.
Okay.
Mark your calendars, April something. I'll have to get the date confirmed. I think it's the 14th, is the big night out, which is sponsored by Next at the Daxton Hotel. Big band, dancing, lots of fun. Last year, they had a waiting list of 75 people. They could not get tickets, so it's a blast. More to come on that.
Great.
None from me.
She reminded me, in Saukwa land, they finally do have a tentative agreement with regards to Highland Park. And in addition to that, trying to remember the name of the group above Saukwa, Great Lakes Water Authority has at least tentative said that they're going to refund various communities for monies that they have paid throughout the years on behalf of Highland Park when Highland Park wasn't paying. And that means that, assuming this agreement comes to fruition, which there still is just a ton of work to be done, and I'm not holding my breath, but Bingham Farms would get like a refund of, I think, $2,800 or something like that. Not a great deal, but they're also,
$6 million.
yeah, it's not quite $6 million.
They'll pay for the IT services.
But they're also,
They've got to pay.
I think the money might actually go to the residents, to each, which means it wouldn't be 2,800, it'd be 13 cents or something, but, and there also is there may be some money coming back on the sewer side of it, which would mean that, there might be some sewer rebate money as well, but that hasn't been decided, I don't think. And finally, Saukwa is picking a new general manager here very shortly. The guy who's done it for decades and who I think has done a really good job is retiring, and they're quite far along in the process of naming his replacement. That's it.
Interesting. I have nothing other than I hope everybody has a healthy, happy holiday. And with that, I would look for a motion to go into executive session.
I will so move.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Got to be a roll call vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. No.
Okay, let me get to my note here. Blackburn,
Aye.
Hageman,
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Craybill,
Aye.
Mashigian,
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Bill and Yev, if you guys want to step out for a few minutes, I'll call you back in when we go back into session, or open session. They are leaving, I'm letting them go. Yeah, I'm telling them to get out of the room.
Do they
Is that
need
what
to
you
come
mean?
back?
I thought they were going to be gone.
You mean leave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you could leave.
Yeah,
business.
I guess that's a good point.
Do we know the